Hey guys, it is Niall and Tomas from
I
niallpoints.com. We are back with the final episode of season 2024. It is, at the time of recording, the 20th of August, so we are wildly running out of time before everything starts up again. And we are going to try and be there for absolutely everything this time around. We're going to be prepared for season 2025. That's manifestation
Are you
because
saying we were unprepared? We weren't
we,
unprepared.
we started in January. Half the season was
True,
done.
yeah.
Half the
True.
season was done, but we're going to try and be there for everything. Um, Going to be a bit more maybe focus on the pod. We'll see, but
Yeah.
we'll see how that all goes. But we thought we'd do a final episode because really, what the hell has been happening? It's just been drama, drama, drama. What should we? Where should we even start? Does it ever end?
Yeah. I have no idea. I think let's. I thought about doing it chronologically, but like let's start with the Jos Klein, like the latest development in that story, because obviously we all know what happened last year with Joost. He was disqualified. The EBU pretty much did not give the fans or the press any information on what had happened. They basically just let it play out and let the internet, run wild with what possibly could have happened backstage. In the end, we did get some sort of an explanation. So apparently, there was a physical altercation between Joost and what then turned out to be, I think, a Swedish camera
I
woman,
think
someone
so. A
from the
member of
crew.
staff, anyway.
Yeah. So apparently he would have pushed or hit the woman's camera, which broke the camera and also slightly injured her hand, from what I could hear. But even that hasn't been confirmed. These are all still just rumors. Basically, the only thing that we know for sure is that there was a physical altercation between him and that woman. That's basically all they confirmed. The disqualification happened. Nobody knew, like, was there any proof? Was it filmed? Was it just based off of witnesses? It was all very weird. And we said then, like, what if it doesn't, what if he's not charged in the end? What if the charges are dropped? What is that going to mean for the Netherlands' participation? Because there was already such an outrage of people saying, well, the disqualification is unfair, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm not saying it was unfair. I won't judge on that because we basically still don't have full information on what happened. But the fact that they dropped the charges is not going to help the EBU stand behind the decision that they made in May, I think.
Well, they have stood by the decision that they've made. They said that the prosecution is completely separate from what action they took. Now, there's a couple of ways you can look at this, in my opinion. So I'm going to try and be the most reasonable and thought through that I can. And I know we don't do that a lot in the Eurovision fandom, but we're going to try. Now, again, as Thomas said, we don't know what happened. We've got rumours, we've got differing stories from the EBU and from Avatros and the Dutch delegation. We don't know, and it is likely that we are never going to know exactly what happened there. So everything you hear about what actually happened is likely to be speculation or potentially a biased presentation of the story. What we have really is the EBU as an employer received a complaint which was deemed worthy enough to be investigated by the police, whether or not there was evidence of that, to successfully charge or prosecute. It was deemed worthy to be investigated, and from what we can understand, a member of staff was made to feel unsafe in their place of work. Now, the EBU does have a responsibility to ensure that not only the contestants, but also their staff are looked after. Now, this is a difficult balance to get right. I think in any employer, this type of complaint is difficult because it's difficult to ascertain what the actual injury to feelings were. Was there any intent behind whatever action was taken? There's a lot of questions, again, that are unknown. So the EBU absolutely did have to do something in order to ensure that this was a safe working environment for this member of staff. Was disqualification the right thing? I think it seems a bit heavy-handed based on the rumours we're hearing. But at the end of the day, they did have to do something. Now, they could have maybe done something where they just had that member of staff not within the vicinity of that delegation. They just separated them and said, look, you guys aren't going to be here. We're not going to have this camera for you. We'll have it for everyone else. Whatever they needed to do to have that separation and ensure there was no sort of potential for further interaction that could aggravate the situation. I just feel like the suspension and the disqualification was... All we can say is this was definitely fumbled in a PR perspective by the EBU. There was... The fact that we're still talking about this shows that it was fumbled from a PR perspective, and it's still being fumbled. If there was just a little bit more information, like straight away that, there has been an incident reported to us, this is a matter we're going to take very seriously because it involves the safety of our crew, as well as potentially other acts or artists. For this reason, the Netherlands will not perform at this rehearsal and will not perform until further notice. Something that is just straight away says something is going on. It is something that is serious enough to be investigated, but not put sort of like a judgment in place, because it felt kind of what we were getting felt like this is what has happened. We still don't know for a fact. We hear from Conall Mass that it absolutely is nothing like what has been reported. But were they there? We just don't know the situation. But there's a middle ground and a nuance that has been taken out of this. Now, obviously, this woman was made to feel unsafe, and we need to make sure that she's not put in that position again. I think there are now people who are saying that because the prosecution didn't have enough evidence to take the charges further, that she's making it up, or that it never happened in the first place. And we've got to say here that that doesn't necessarily mean anything. We know that cases of domestic abuse, of sexual assault, of assault against women in general, all of this are really difficult to prosecute in many countries across Europe. It's very low in the UK, and in fact quite a problem in the UK. I'm sure that is replicated around Europe. So don't do that. That's my sort of feel. But I don't know. Does that make... That's just the way that I see it. I know I talked a little bit there, but
it's a tricky situation. If you look at it from the perspective of the EBU, I do understand what you said, that they had to do something. We said this earlier because we obviously discussed this at length back in May after it all happened.
Doesn't that feel so long ago?
That is crazy, yeah. It seems like 2 years ago when it's only been a couple of months. But we discussed it back then. How much was the EBU allowed to say? If there is an investigation pending, they probably weren't allowed to give any details on the matter. But like you said, they could have at least come out with a statement and said, there has been an incident backstage between the Dutch delegation. They didn't even have to name names. Just could have said it was between the Dutch delegation and a third party, and we're investigating it. Point. Yeah. That's all they had to do. But they didn't. They just let like I said, they let the internet go, run wild with theories of what might have happened. I do understand the fact that they have to make sure that there is a safe environment to work in for the crew, not just for the crew, but also for the artists. However, if you look at it from the artist's point of view, or not so much from the artist's point of view, but maybe from the point of view of the EBU itself. The artists know what they're getting themselves in for when they do Eurovision. You know that there's going to be press everywhere. You know that there's going to be fans everywhere. You know that wherever you go, people are going to want something from you. And I know that a lot of artists have struggled with this in the past. I read this article shortly after Eurovision about this topic, and Estine from the Netherlands also said, like, people are constantly pulling your arm, they constantly want something from you. It's very tiring, and it can really mess with your mental health. And I can understand that. So I can understand that also for Joost Klein, that must have been difficult at times, especially since we now know that he is someone that is in complete control of his career. Everything that happens in his career is every decision is made by him. He does, he's not tied to a label. He does the promotion himself. He makes his music videos himself. He always decides what goes on social media himself. And now all of a sudden he's coming into this competition and everybody else decides what's happening to your work. So I can understand that that's hard, but you know what you're getting yourself in for. You know that that's the rules. That makes it tricky for me, because I can kind of understand where he's coming from, but also, maybe don't do something like this then if you're not prepared to let other people take charge. It's just... But then you could also argue, and I think we talked about this with Dude when she joined one of our episodes. How can I put this into words? You also don't want to push these artists to their limits. And I think that may also have been partly what happened. Maybe Jos was pushed to their limits. Maybe if an artist does say, please, can you stop filming me for 5 minutes so I can take a breather. There's a lot going on. You just get off stage from your rehearsal. It might not have gone the way you want it. You might be stressed. And then it doesn't seem right to me if that crew member, that camera person, would then still continuously push that camera in your face. I can see why that agitates people. So, like I said, it's very tricky, and as we've said before, we don't know what happened, and we probably never will. And even if someone does give us a full detailed thing of what happened, it's still only one side of the story. You don't know if they're telling the truth. It's
the whole truth. It might be
or the whole
partial.
Truth.
Yeah, it might be partial.
It's difficult.
Sure. I do think there's lessons to be learned about crisis management there, because I think that you could, for all intents and purposes, you could call that a crisis. It didn't need to be as big a crisis as it was, but whatever was going on when you've got one of your participants potentially being disqualified at the last minute, that's crisis time.
That is probably a decision they shouldn't have made. I think they probably should have just said, we're investigating an incident and we're just going to let everything play out in the meantime. We're going to let Joost Klein rehearse. We're going to let him compete. It would have been easier, I think, had there been sufficient proof to charge him and to convict him of something, to then say, you know what, we're going to disqualify your result. Then to disqualify him then, which I think is very harsh, and then months later have to hear from whoever conducted the investigation, where there is no sufficient proof that Joost Klein had any bad intentions, so we're going to drop the charges. So, because that sort of creates another uproar, and as if the EBU was not in enough, like you said, PR drama.
It was a fumble, definitely. Yeah. I think, for all intents and purposes, I know there are a lot of Joost fans who are still upset and angry. A lot of people in the Netherlands are still upset and angry, and I can understand that, and I do feel bad. But I think we need to just, to a certain degree, the EBU needs to learn lessons from it. But I think as a fandom, we need to just be like, right, this is over. There's nothing we can do to change what happened. There shouldn't be any hate directed towards anyone.
No.
And we'll come on to this again with the next two stories we're probably going to discuss, just chill. I think that's my underlying message. Just
Yeah.
take a chill pill, guys. Because the next two stories, I think we can maybe take these together. We've got a potentially mistranslated, miscontext taken out interview with Baby Lasagna, where he seemingly praised the Israeli delegation and potentially said some not too nice things about Ireland's delegation and Bambi Thug specifically. Now, do we don't have a good translation available to us. We have heard from people who do speak Croatian that it may just not have came across right. But this seemed to just lead to this absolute outburst in furore that, like, just seemed to come out of nowhere, and you couldn't escape it on Twitter that day. Anyway, I think you were happy. I think you were off Twitter that day. You lucky sod.
I did. Well, I did see a lot of clips from the interview that had translations, and I watched a lot of those clips with the English translations. But like you said, who translated it? We don't know. Then we heard this rumor that it came from a certain Israeli, I don't know, media outlet or influencer or whatever, or blogger who translated it. I don't know how that person would then translate Croatian to English. I have no idea. But it did sort of make me think, okay, we're again blowing something completely out of proportion based on a very untrustworthy source. And that, I think I said that in our group chat that day. I refuse to believe and judge anything based on these kind of sources. Like, I'd rather hear this officially from the artists themselves. This is what I said, than trust some random guy who translated some Croatian interview. Again, we don't know. We don't. If you don't speak Croatian, you don't know for sure what exactly it was that Baby Lasagna said. About the stuff that he said about Bambi, from what I could see, from the translation that I could see, it did not seem too nice. However, I also don't think that he said that many offensive things. And for me, it sort of felt like, okay, this is just a different point of view to the events that happened backstage at Eurovision. We know that there was obviously, which there always are every year, there's certain cliques, there's certain groups of artists that sort of cling together, that like each other, that spend a lot of time with each other. I think we can safely say that, the likes of, Bambi Thug, Marina Sati, Nemo, Sylvester, and a couple of more really bonded. They really had a great time together. And I think we can safely say that Baby Lasagna was not in that group. Probably got along with other artists. I can sort of understand his point of view when he says, like, I can hear a lot of screaming, I can hear a lot of shouting, I can hear a lot of arguing, and to me, it was just sort of wild and when you're outside of that bubble, when you're outside of the drama and you just witness it from a distance, I can sort of see that his point of view of what happened could be different than, Bambi's, for example. Which makes it very difficult for me to, label Baby Lasagna as, the devil, the demon that did the most horrible thing right now. Because, that might just have been the way that it came across to him, which was just a bunch of people creating drama. I don't know.
And the thing is as well, when he's talking positively about the Israeli delegation, they may have had a nice time, and it's not saying that he supports the regime or anything like that, but at the end of the day, he is there with people from other countries, and they will try and talk to him and whatever. And he has a positive interaction and thinks positively of that time, then that's his perspective from his lived experience. It's the same thing as saying, I could go, I don't know, to the library tomorrow, and meet an Israeli person who I didn't know was Israeli and all the rest of it until later, and then have a really nice time. Just because people are Israeli does not mean they are awful people,
exactly.
or that they're going to have necessarily have a bad experience. If he had a good experience, that's great. That is his lived experience, and he's just going off of that. So yeah, I think this is another example of just, I don't know if it's because we're just so much into this off season that people are just desperate for anything, but we've also seen that there are just people who are desperate for attention within the fandom, who just tweet out the most offensive and horrible stuff, seemingly without any consequence or care, who just want a feedless drama.
Yeah.
So I just.
Do you know what it also is? Like, I'm trying to, like, if I were in one of the artist situation and I go there to Eurovision, if I'm backstage and I meet the Israeli delegation, regardless of their political views, when I meet them and they come up to me and they say hi and they're being nice to me, I would probably not be rude back to them. I would probably be nice to them. I'd probably say hi as well and just wish them luck and hope that they have a good time.
Yeah.
I think we sort of need to put that whole thing aside a little bit when you're there, whether we like the fact that Israel was able to take part or not. Both of us have expressed that we do not think that Israel should have been allowed in the contest, but they were there. So
what now?
What good does it do?
Why are we arguing over it?
Yeah, what good does it do to then be rude to them for no apparent reason? But of course, and that also takes it back to Baby Lasagna. He was not rude to them and was talked positively about the Israeli delegation because he did not have any negative, experiences with them. Obviously, Bambi did have negative experiences, which makes it Bambi's good right to feel offended and to feel, angry about that or sad. It's just, like I said, it's just different points of view. Like,
and the amount of people I saw tweeting things along the lines of "I'm so glad Nemo won" and all the rest of it, where it's they were all raging at Nemo because he liked Eden Galan's photo on Instagram the other week.
And that selfie with that Israeli songwriter, apparently.
I missed that, but
apparently on some sort of, I think it was some sort of TV show, he took a selfie with, from what I can, this is just a rumor again, this is what I read, that woman in the picture was the Israeli songwriter, the person who wrote Eden Golan's song, or co-wrote the song, or produced the music, I don't know, something like that. I tweeted that out that day, like, you guys are all backing Nemo again now, when not 2 months ago you were shitting on him for taking a picture with an Israeli songwriter. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's just a case of, again, they could have had some nice experiences. Overall, they may have had some issues, but, why is liking a photo of someone such an egregious act?
Yeah.
I can understand maybe being a little bit disappointed if someone doesn't fully agree with or the way that you would react to something personally, but that's on you, babes. Like, if you are going to get a lot upset over a photo, what you're going to do when you find out, what secrets your government are keeping, or what scandals are lurking behind underneath, and this is something I just really feel like it's people who are wanting that attention, but they're also trying to hold Eurovision artists to a higher standard than they hold of account than they hold their own governments to. These are people who are crapping on Thea from Austria 2023 for still writing songs for Eurovision 2025 and as a songwriter to try and submit songs to different selections because of Israel's continued involvement within the contest. Now, let's be frank. Does Israel being in Eurovision help to legitimize them in some way? Yes. Does it help to legitimize them in the same way as our governments help legitimize them? No. The people who can actually make a difference in this, call it out, are your governments. So that's who people need to be holding to account, right into, whatever. And they can express that they disagree with Thea's position. I think as someone we both follow who tweeted the first tweet about it, about the fact that they feel that they should take a look back and look at things. That's their position. That's their right. It wasn't anything that was actually directed at anyone. It wasn't anything that was really hurtful or offensive. It was just a strong opinion that they had. But what followed was horrible. Now, we will say this again. We've said it before, really close to when we started this, when Tally won the Luxembourg contest. But there is no place for threats of violence, for death threats, for encouraging suicide, for saying anything like that, for any actual abuse. There's no effect. There's nothing. If we come across it on our platforms, we will block you from our platforms. There's no question on that. There's no place for it in our lives. And we hope that even if we shit on something, that it all comes from a place of love. There is no actual hatred there. It's just our opinion, or we're making a little joke of the situation. But what isn't funny is saying X should kill themselves, or whatever you have to say. That's not a joke, and in some countries it's actually illegal. So, these are the people who really get my goat. I don't know if you can tell. I'm angry about that.
Yeah, no, same. It's just, and do you know that person that we both saw? I don't think it was a tweet. I think it was a direct message in some sort of a group chat. That person did in fact tweet about Thea, that she should go and kill herself because she's writing a song that could potentially be sent to Eurovision 2025. That was just wild to me. And then I saw some other offensive tweets from one certain person who then commented on one of our Niall Point blog tweets. And that person, what strikes me is it's always those people that hide behind a meme or a picture of an animal for a profile picture. And I'm not saying, I'm not dissing people who do that. We have a lot of friends who have random things as their profile picture. That's fine. But if you use that, that place of anonymity to threaten people or to say such unhinged things, that just makes my blood boil, because it's like, you have the guts to say that, but you don't have the guts to show me your face. Mm-hmm. And then it turns out that they have another private account that you cannot access, you cannot see anything from because they've put it private. And it's like, well, I can still see your face in that picture, babes. I still see who you are now. The truth always comes out, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you can be anonymous in one profile and say all the nastiest things, but at the end of the day, someone's going to call you out and say, hey, this is their other profile. This is the person that's been doing all of this. And then I saw that one person that I'm talking about. Then I saw the tweet or an answer to someone else's tweet, and I think it was about Taylor Swift's song coming out so many years ago, and it said, "How old were you when that song came out?" And they answered, "I was 4 years old, and the song came out 10 years ago." And I'm like, "You're 14? You are 14, and you're saying the most horrendous things."
It's a tension, in my opinion. It's just this whole. It's almost like I don't actually have any friends in real life, so I'm going to be. That's just how I see it. I'm not saying that people don't have their own friends and stuff like that, but just like, how do you get to that stage? And I just feel like there's just something there. But yeah, no, they said, not very nice things about yourself. I will say your hair's looking really nice today, and not
my greasy ass hair. Or was it? He was gonna
beard.
Put my head on the toilet or smash my head on the toilet or something.
Or I think swirly, we give you a swirly or something like that,
Yeah.
and then you've got a poop beard.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait till you have you not seen when I try and grow a beard, babes? Like that's what is pubes. Not Thomas's is fine.
Okay.
But no, yeah, there's definitely been a lot of drama, and the problem is, does the drama ever end?
No.
That's a question, and why, and how do we stop it? I'm bored. I'm really bored of it.
I think it's only going to get worse, babes. Like, I think for the next year, it is looking very likely that Israel is going to be competing again. So a lot of people are going to have a thing or two to say about that, and rightfully so. But I fear it's going to get even more unhinged than it did last year, especially after everything that happened. The fact that they're still allowed to compete is going to make some people very, very angry, and it's going to, make some people go over the edge and just tweet out the most, or just blurt out the most horrible things. So I say prepare for some more drama for Eurovision 2025.
Well, I think that we should keep a promise, make a promise that Niallpoints is always going to be a safe space for everyone, no matter who you are, what you identify as, how able-bodied you, whatever. We want to be a safe space for you. This is a community that we want to foster, and we hope that we will do that. And we hope that you know that when we talk about these things, we are just talking about our opinion, but we are trying to do it in a way that is thoughtful and accessible as well, and thought through. We're not just trying, although we are just like coming up with saying words, having a conversation. It is actually our actual thoughts. We're not just saying stuff for the sake of it, because there's no point in that. We I think that's one of the reasons that me and Thomas get on in real life, is because we are just us. There's no pretense, there's no facade. What you get from Thomas online is exactly what you get from Thomas offline. And the same with me. And you put us both together and we just are stupid.
But and also I think the two of us we're very moderate in our views. Like, we have our opinions and we have certain strong opinions, but I think what sets us apart from some of other people is that we always try to, or at least I try to do that, and I think you do as well, is try to see the positive in any situation as much as we can, and try to to be nuanced about anything that happens, even though we might not always agree with what's going on. We're always going to try and stay nice, and that's also what we expect from the people, you guys, the people that are watching our videos and commenting on videos or on our tweets, whatever. Just say whatever you want to say, give your opinion, just keep it polite, just keep it nice. Do not insult anyone, do not threaten anyone. There's no need for that. It's just, at the end of the day, it's just a silly little music competition.
Yeah, exactly. I really hope.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I really hope that we can not have to talk about this type of thing again. I doubt it, unfortunately, but I wish we could go into this 2025 season with just a positive outlook, and not have to like reiterate our disgust at some certain behaviour or whatever. I don't think that's going to happen just with the way that people are. We might block ourselves out of it where we don't see it. But yeah, we just we'll start as we mean to go on here with season 2025, season 2 of Niall Points. Crazy, but yeah, this is what we want to be.
Positive, but still critical. I think,
yeah, it's constructive. It's not
yeah, exactly.
rude. And I think that's definitely where we go. I do have a question before we end on for season 2024. Is there anything from any country that you would particularly like to see in 2025? Is there, if you could, like, ask for one thing to happen in 2025, other than Belgium winning?
That was the first thing that popped into my head.
Other than Belgium winning the Eurovision Song Contest, what would be your biggest ask?
Oof. That is a very hard question to ask and then expect me to answer within seconds.
Sorry.
I think one of the things that I want to see for Eurovision 2025 is for, and this is not just one specific country, but for all countries to send something that is uniquely for their country. You know that I'm always a sucker for these traditional entries. That is why I loved Armenia so much this year, and I want people to send stuff like that. Do what Marina did, do what Ladaniva did, do something traditional, not really traditional, but just something that sort of like shows your culture. Maybe sing in your own language if you can. That's something that I want. Sorry?
What about made-up languages? Imaginary ones.
Well, that's also original. If you want to, Belgium's done that twice, very successfully one time, I might add. But yeah, I know that for some countries it's more difficult. I wouldn't possibly be able to tell you what would sound traditionally Belgian. I don't know, but I would like to see countries sort of send something that showcases their culture a little bit more, or their language. Like I said before, we have 3 official languages, and the last time we sent a song in any of those languages was, I think, in 2005, which was the last completely French song that we sent. Mm-hmm. We sent Je t'adore the year after, but that was just the title of the song. Those 2 words in French, and the rest was in English. And I'm not saying those were not good songs, right? But yeah, that's something that I always love to see, is when a country just does something.
Yeah, I would like to see, in a similar way, this is sort of what I would like to see, and I will call out the UK on this one, but it's very similar to you. But I would like to see a bit more variation in subcultures that's going on. So from the UK, there's a huge rap, grime, all this sort of different type of music. A lot of it of black origin, and stuff like that. That we've never really. The UK just has some of the best of these acts. Now, it's not necessarily my favourite type of music. I'm not going to pretend that it is, but there's some songs out there like here, and you're like, what? This is insane. Yeah. Why can't we send something different but not unique different, where it's like it turns out to be Electric Velvet or something like that with lights. But a talent that is defined and has its own vision and sound, and something like that comes from out with the pop bubble. I would like that from I know we won't get it from all countries, but I would like that from a couple of countries. just something that's just a little bit different. That's
Yeah, and
that,
do you know what it is like when you say it might not 100% be my type of music? Even then, if you look at songs like Karia, Cha Cha Cha, that is so not a genre that I would normally listen to, but I loved Cha Cha Cha. So it
yeah,
doesn't have to be just because it's different and not something that you usually listen to doesn't have to mean that you won't like it. So yeah,
exactly.
just think outside the box, do something different. I feel like when I think about my own country, Belgium, like I was very proud when they sent Gustav. When Gustav really sent something, did something really special. It was really the queer representation that we had from Gustav. I think that's something the first time that we did that, and that was even though the song might have been a little bit dated. It was still something unique for us, something that we'd never done before, and it worked. So usually, when you do something, you do try something else. It works out
I think it
most
works
of the
well
time.
as when it's your own, when you are being authentically yourself. So Gustav Caria, okay, Caria is a character, we can agree on that, but Caria as a character is authentic and is
Yeah,
in his own way. I think we can also say My Mother for me is when we saw the reaction at Eurofest the other week when I Wrote a Song came on. I've never seen a reaction like that in a club to any song ever. But there's this personality that comes through, and although that wasn't a perfect song or perfect performance in any way, there was a personality that shone all the way through it. And I
yeah,
think a lot of the time it comes down to that personality for me.
yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
exactly. Which is also why not just that, but one of the reasons why Sam Ryder was so successful is I rewatched that performance the other day, and you just have this huge smile on your face from start to finish, just because of his charisma just shone through the
yes,
camera, and that's what you need: someone authentic, someone real.
showmanship
Yeah,
is
and
what I
like you
would.
said, if you do put an act on stage like Karya does, at least make sure that it's authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, look at us having actual nice thoughts for Eurovision 2025. Will they come true? I guess we'll find out when it comes to season 2 of the Neil podcast.
Ooh, should we, before we finish, should we do one more? Should we just do a wild prediction for 2025? What would be your wildest prediction for 2025? Or maybe not the wildest prediction, but just a prediction.
Of who would win, or like.
Anything, like what might happen, what artist we might see who could win.
I my prediction, and okay, here's my wildest here's my prediction. Ireland this year, they're either going to be great or they're going to be terrible. I can't decide which way it's going to be,
That's
but
not a prediction, babe. That's just reality. It's just...
no, but it's not going to be okay. I think they'll try. I think they'll try to replicate the greatness we got
Yeah,
from
from them.
Bambi Fog, but I think they'll fumble it. I think it will not work. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw, the likes of Latvia and Ireland, who have really struggled to qualify in recent
Yeah.
years, go back to non-qualification status. I would like to see. You know what? I would like Croatia to do something really good and go on to be able to win it. I'd like them to keep up that momentum as well. I would love to see Croatia win.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, especially after last year becoming so close, yeah. That would be a great thing to see.
How about
Be
you?
like, um
I love how you asked the question and then never
and
actually
I
thought
don't
to
even
ask.
have an answer myself, no. I'm I'm not gonna say that this is a prediction, but just something that I expect. One of the countries that has surprised me and pleased me the most in the last 3 to 4 years is Spain. With Chanel and then Blanca, and now this year as well. I'm gonna go out and predict that Spain is gonna do great this year. I feel like Spain is on the right track, even though the results this year and last year weren't what we expected. I do still think that Spain has sort of found its rhythm in Eurovision, and that we can expect great things from them. So yeah, that's my prediction. I think Spain is going to do really great. I could be horribly wrong, but I think they're going to do really great, or at least they're going to come up with a great song again and continue their streak, if you will, despite the poor results. But that's what we said, earlier in this season as well, is that the results are just secondary. You can have a great song that's loved by the entire fandom, even though it doesn't do well in the end. So that's one of my predictions, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that UMK is going to be strong again this year, and we're going to get another great song for Finland. Whether or not you liked Windows 95 Men or not, we loved them. I love that song, even though I had another favorite in UMK this year. But that's also, yeah, that's my second prediction. So Spain and Finland are, at least they're the two that I'm going to be most excited about what they're going to bring. And for Belgium, I'm terrified. I don't know. Eurosong is coming back, and I have no idea what to expect.
Well, fingers crossed. We will see what happens. Because the next episode will be within season 2025. We're hearing rumours that Cyprus are going to announce their artist not long after the 1st of September. So we'll try and bring you that as soon as anything's confirmed. We've also got Montenegro coming back as well.
Is that confirmed? I didn't even know that.
That is confirmed, yes. So Montenegro will be back as well. So let's take a look. Let's wait, see what happens, and let's all just hold hands and wish and manifest a great, friendly, fun season that we all can enjoy.
And we won't be back until September. Yeah, and we won't be back until September unless some new drama unfolds in the upcoming 10 or 11 days that are left in August. So if we're back within a few days, something happened.
Yeah. We'll call that a bonus pod, because this is the season 1 finale. So thanks for tuning in for season 1. We will be back and stronger for season 2 from September. It might not be weekly, it just depends on how much is going on, babes. But we will try and be a bit more regular with posting. Keep an eye out at niallpoints.com. You can find info there. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are changing to @niallpointspod. So make sure to follow that. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @niallpoint.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @paidatomrihuja.
And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.